Hi, and welcome to New God Sunday School. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and I am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. And on Free Comic Book Day, Saturday, May 6th, there's going to be a Free Comic Book Day edition of I Am Stan, a comic book-sized version of it that covers part of the Marvel years. So ask your retailer to set aside a copy for you. This is the most special New God Sunday School of the year. This is my favorite comic of all time, my favorite 24 pages of comic book storytelling. This is Jack Kirby's New Gods number 7, The Pact. A great mystery is explained in the greatest battle ever fought by the New Gods. A pretty cool cover, very off-key, very, a little something different. Not your typical comic book cover. It's I think it's like pretty clear that there's something very different and very interesting going on in here. Very metal, we got this snarling dog, these warriors all, ripped to shreds in their crazy armor. So yeah, if you were to base a religion on the works of Jack Kirby, this would be the central text. It's written very deliberately in sort of a biblical manner. Kirby's creating, a sort of, in the beginning, he's creating a creation myth of his new gods. And this is the first issue that's kind of taken entirely out of the here and now, out of the context of this ongoing war, which makes up the main story of the new gods. This is a prequel. We're going back in time and telling the story of events that took place, before issue 1 of New Gods. It begins, it begins with peace. In the beginning, the new gods were formless in image and aimless in deed. On each of their 2 new worlds, their races had sprung from a survivor of the old. The living atoms of Baldur gave nobility and strength to one, and the shadow planet was saturated by the cunning and evil which was once a sorceress. For an age, these new gods pursued their own destinies until the time of the Great Clash. It would start on New Genesis with these 2, Isaiah the Inheritor and his wife Avia, and happiness, the first sign of coming tragedy in an imperfect state. It's springtime. It's starting to look like this picture with birds flying and flowers in bloom. And we have some Kirby gods in repose. In moments like these, wife, the warrior softens and sees the land is not a mere logistics map. Are we made for war, Isaiah? I've never heard you sing. From time to time, this kind of segment will supplement the larger tapestry of the new gods. Thank you, Jack Kirby. Sing, Isaiah. Let me hear your voice when it's not a battle cry. I can't sing as yet, Avia. It's your devotion that feeds my aching spirits. You've got the weapon, master. Now take the warrior. And so I shall. Careful, uncle. Be gone, Avia. Steppenwolf of Apocalypse and his demon raiders. Can't you find enough of your brutal sport among your foul kind?
Look out, uncle. You've snared Isaiah the Inheritor. He's a New Genesis leader.
Now, I'm reading this with the dark side voice because, again, this issue has all kinds of surprise reveals. Practically every character in here is some kind of surprise reveal, and I feel like this is like the high watermark for making a prequel. If you're going to make a story that kind of takes place in the past of your main story, this is the way you do it. You put us in a new context that's unfamiliar, and then little by little, characters that we think are new characters, we realize are old familiar ones, and they're acting in ways that are very surprising and very different from the way that we know them. And so that tells you what has changed from the beginning of this story till the end, and until the end of this story and now. It's just incredibly effective. And when I was anticipating the release of George Lucas's Star Wars prequels, I was picturing something like this. I was hoping for something like this. Listen to that voice, Steppenwolf. It could save your life. Ugh, for this affront you'll forfeit yours. So this little voice saying, careful, uncle, look out, uncle. This little voice in the background is later revealed to be Darkseid, which is very interesting because, Darkseid, this, imposing guy who has statues of himself everywhere, is just this meek little voice saying, be careful. Maybe he doesn't even have the Darkseid voice at this point. Maybe he is speaking in a little more of like a, sort of like a twerp kind of voice. But his sort of twerpishness is part of a plan. And that gets manifest through this issue too. We can kill him, master. Give us the order. Stand back. He's my kill. I'll hang his skull in my trophy hall. I hunt where and what I wish, Isaiah, and I claim even leaders as my quarry. Arrogant dog. I'll take him. We can't risk the life of my uncle. We obey. What is this? How dare you dogs interfere? Suddenly, pow. And now, Steppenwolf, we'll see whose skull hangs in exhibition. No, Isaiah, no. What? So we get this great, one-on-one duel between beings of power. Steppenwolf is as savage as the things he hunts. He sees the movement behind him. He whirls and fires a fatal radiant bolt from the butt end of his cable snare. Uncle, what have you done? Your quick trigger finger has betrayed your better judgment. Silence, fools. I didn't see the female until it was too late. Avia. Avia has succumbed, Uncle. The damage is done. Isaiah will never rest until she's avenged. Then stand back. We'll have it done with here and now. A duel to the death would please me indeed. No, Uncle, this is the way. It's best to finish such an enemy quickly and leave this place. And so the two are joined in death. These killing gloves designed by my good friend Desaad do a swift and thorough job. And so it's revealed that sort of toady-ish nephew who's, telling his uncle to be careful was Darkseid the whole time, and the young Darkseid. And that Darkseid is not a God Emperor of Apocalypse at this point. He is, his uncle's nephew, his mother's son. And maybe his voice has not deepened yet. He hasn't breathed in enough of the fumes of the fire pits of Apocalypse. But again, look at this so far. We're just getting this amazing space opera. Every panel matters. The story is just, momentous events are happening before our eyes. And it's completely original. He's not retelling, like an old Norse myth or something. He's creating a new mythology, which was his intent, to create a mythology for our times. It appears strange to me that this friend of yours, who thrives on living victims, would produce a device which kills with such speed. I don't trust you, nephew, or your bizarre companions. So yeah, these gloves are created by Desaad, Darkseid's weirdo friend, who his uncle doesn't trust. He doesn't trust him or his bizarre companions. And the uncle's instinct is right. Would you care to examine the body, noble Steppenwolf? There's no need. I know I'll find no sign of life. Let me add further, Darkseid, I don't like you. You're clever and cunning and a plotter, like my dear sister, your mother. Your name is most great and feared, uncle. But remember, my mother rules Apocalypse. Blast you, Darkseid, I don't know the meaning of this poor day's hunt, but by every demon, I'll not forget that you suggested this foray on New Genesis. And as he has engineered the incident, Darkseid has begun the war. Isaiah is still alive. So we see Darkseid as this master manipulator, and Steppenwolf was right. His instinct was right. Desaad, this guy whose whole life is about torturing people, why would he create something that kills instantly, that is sort of, a merciful way of committing murder, when Desaad obviously so much more enjoys killing somebody slowly and enjoying the whole process. So he's right. And Darkseid's whole, be careful, uncle, it's this manipulation. It's this sort of, when it suits his purposes, he pretends to be sort of small and insignificant, but sort of pushing things in the direction he wants them to go the whole time, and getting his powerful and boastful and not so cautious uncle to sort of, blunder into the situations that serve his purposes. Darkseid wanted war, and he got war. This is an act of war. And if Isaiah had died here, the war might not have happened. No one might have known, what had occurred this day, who had done this. But because Isaiah lives, he's going to use everything in his arsenal to get the guy who killed his beloved Avia. The Great Clash, London calling to the underground. A shattering event which will haunt the new gods for ages to come, roars in upon the demon world of Apocalypse. Summoned by a vengeful Isaiah, teams of flying monitors bring fiery destruction in their wake. But far from being a chronicle of the conflict, this is instead the story of the personal struggles and the strange forming of the Pact. Which I think that's an interesting thing to differentiate, because I think people, maybe myself included, people who are fans of this story, and there are many of us, this is, I'm not the only one who thinks this is the greatest thing to ever come out of comics. I feel like many of us tend to focus on the bombast, these sort of revelation images of techno-apocalypse, this sort of religious iconography merged with technological iconography into some new language. I think we tend to focus on those aspects. But to Kirby, that stuff is great. He loves that stuff. It's there. It's part of the fun. It's part of the mix. But the real focus of this is the personal struggles and within, and that this comic wouldn't be worth its salt. It wouldn't be what it is without those. Those are key. All this other stuff is great. All this other stuff is unique to Kirby. You don't see this kind of stuff in other comics. That would be one thing, but Kirby takes it to another level by focusing on the people, as we've seen so far. Written, edited, and drawn by Jack Kirby, inked by Mike Royer. War! War! Apocalypse is under attack. The enemy has broken through our parademon air defense. Weapon units, open fire! And here they are carrying some kind of sort of space angels of death, carrying this, technological Ark of the Covenant. The monitors are relentless, and they range all Apocalypse in fierce waves. Somewhere Isaiah has drawn the main demon forces in battle, so the large de-energizing bombs can get through. I've reached my target. The blazing energy pit below shall burn no more. This is kind of like dropping the proton torpedo into the hole in the Death Star. Bomb released. Death to the power of Apocalypse. Where its power is created, there must it be smothered and snuffed out. And that's exactly what the bomb does. It plunges into the planetary pit, and with one mighty burst sends its giant store of whirling electrons flying from the core which feeds it. What's left is a dark, silent pit, miles deep, miles wide, and power snatched from the weapons of Apocalypse. So we've seen these fire pits before. Now we're getting a closer look, and we're seeing, what happens when the fire is snuffed out. And yeah, this is war. Look at this super cool looking vehicle he's flying on with this weird kind of clown face and the release mechanism and this. I sort of borrowed this layout for Transformers versus G.I. Joe when they were dropping one of the creeper bombs. Apocalypse soon finds a protective counter-move, and the war rages in full fury. And so there's Desaad, there's Darkseid, there's Steppenwolf, and again, like Desaad is there, and he's sort of, acting. There's background acting and things, but it's never like, hey Desaad, what's up? He's just, it's like we're recognizing familiar faces in this tableau of new characters. The royal bunkers will serve our needs at present, Steppenwolf. But we don't plan on a long stay. Do you understand? Our forces are striking back. We'll smash the enemy at any moment. Fool, you constantly forget my title. I am your queen, and not the sweet pixie you once called Sister Hagra. You're brash, arrogant, loud. You command an army which only produces battles and body counts. It might be refreshing to listen to one who is cool and wise, like my own darling Darkseid. Well, Darkseid, it seems you wanted this war. It might be well to learn how your inexperience would deal with it. It might. You've no lack of confidence, I'll say that for you. What's that you hold? A small metal block, sire. You see, I spend time with our technicians. It occurred to me that in this new age we must seek new roads to tread. Thus, in this small product, we may have found one such road. This contains a new but unstable element, created by accident here on Apocalypse. The block fades from view. It vanishes. Fear not. See, it returns. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we found the one being who could harness this for Apocalypse? At that instant, What? Metron? Metron of New Genesis? How did he get here? The X element, it's mine. On your word, Darkseid, it's mine. And on my conditions do you obtain it, Metron. You recall our private meetings? So Metron, this guy who's been this kind of like above it all sort of cosmic figure, sitting on his throne of the universe, is here kind of begging and pleading and making deals with Satan himself. Again, we're getting very surprising revelations about the characters we know in this chapter. But it all, instead of lessening or cheapening the story that we've been told up to this point, it deepens it and strengthens it and gives it like deep, complicated, interesting roots. For Apocalypse only will you create the matter threshold, the door to anywhere. What this element does, your armies will do. They will step across vast distances in the wink of an eye. Only I must possess this unobtainable element to build my Mobius chair. So we're seeing the origin of the Mobius chair, this unobtainium. Take it, Metron, take it, and fulfill your scholarly pursuits. Metron, would you take your leave without acknowledging the sovereign status of a most powerful and renowned lady? The Queen Mother, you academic chicken, bow that bald pate you call a head. I beg you to overlook my preoccupation with other thoughts, Majesty. I regret that raw threats must awaken me to common courtesy. I like you, Metron. You're a nice boy. Does it bother you to create the means for mass slaughter? I love the acting going on here. And yes, the palace intrigue and this headpiece that Hagra has. I sort of imagine this face here with these giant horns is modeled after Darkseid's father, that this crown that she wears is some sort of funeral crown, a crown of mourning of her departed husband. And an ongoing project I've been working on just for my own purposes has been like a New Gods graphic novel, and this Darkseid's father figures into it. And when I was working on superpowers, that was when that project really started picking up major steam. I was planning to sort of incorporate it into my superpowers story, or maybe springboard from superpowers into that. I have no link with the old gods or new. I am something different, something that was unforeseen on New Genesis or here. You'll betray us all in time, Metron, but this thing you shall build for us. Poor Metron, he's gone, and how you handled him, Darkseid, how you modestly brought forth a great victory this day. Hail, Darkseid, who but Hagra could have borne such a son? I am your servant, lady. And Darkseid smile. Whenever Darkseid's smiling, it's bad news. And, his friend Desaad is putting his hand on his shoulder like, good job, buddy, good job. Before the boom tube, before the technical wonders produced by Metron, there flashes into being the raw energy of the matter threshold. I love the design of these tanks. It takes me back to my childhood of, the Masters of the Universe collection. This seems like something, I have some Masters of the Universe toys that are almost this. And I'm assuming the Dragon tank is supposed to be 3 tanks next to each other, but it might also be one giant 3-headed dragon tank, which would, I'm pushing for that interpretation, which would really kick ass. Apocalypse armor coming out of nowhere. And across the threshold rumble the dragon tanks of Apocalypse. Give ground, but try to stop them. New Genesis vaulters rush destructipoles against the invaders. When I was in college, I started working on an animated film where I was going to try to animate this sequence. I abandoned it part of the way through and started working in earnest on my comics, sort of realizing that animation was very slow, compared to comics, and I could get a lot more, bang for my buck. I could get a lot more out of my time spent in terms of storytelling with comics. New Genesis vaulters rush destructipoles against the invaders, but many fall, even as their weapons are thrown. It is still an age of heroes, and in the inferno of the great clash, there are beings on New Genesis who find another kind of immortality in tragic extinction. Yeah, death and the meaning of death, and just a big part of this whole series. but particularly this chapter. I mean, look how great this is a living comic. Like, you really feel, like this moment of this giant tank tread rumbling into this like little outpost just as this guy's getting out of it. This super cool looking destructible weapon that's almost like an MC Escher. And here we go. It's on. And I mean, I just love those the dog cavalries of Apocalypse. And I'm still trying to figure out like the origins of it, like where it comes from exactly, what Kirby was drawing on, or maybe it's just, wholly original. And I found this old comic that he did in the 40s. It's very cool. It's almost like a rough draft of this comic. It's this, heavy sci-fi war kind of thing with these guys riding on a dog cavalry. It's sort of what inspired me to work on the Solar Legion comic, because it was sort of related to that. That I was like, man, I want to work on this thing with these like sci-fi warriors on the back, riding on giant dogs into war. Unfortunately, that chapter is not in the public domain, so I can't include that, but I can include the rest of it, which does tell a complete story. Raid upon raid is made everywhere on New Genesis. From one such threshold leaps a snapping unit of dog cavalry, led by Steppenwolf. This could be like the lyrics of like a Pink Floyd song. Cut down the enemy, give no quarter. Stand fast for New Genesis. This is work to my liking. Had Darkseid led the raid, it would have lost its glory. Feel the burning bite of my electro-axe, you heroes. Praise young Darkseid for yielding this command to me. This is where a lusty warrior should be. When Steppenwolf leads, the carnage mounts until the battleground whines beneath the weight and agony of mass death. Nothing lives in his path, yet the enemy suffers, staggers, and still holds the field. The enemy is a hardened, fearless, unyielding force. Then, open these lines, let Steppenwolf come through. The leader waits for him. Too bad, I yearn for that honor myself. Look at this. This is great. And Bruce Timm and Paul Dini animated a lot of this stuff in their, New Gods 2-parter on Superman the Animated Series. And yet it looks like $1 million. They make it into this, like widescreen cinema version of this. Really appropriate, really great. I'm sort of shocked and dismayed we haven't gotten, that New Gods still hasn't gotten that treatment. We haven't gotten like a definitive New Gods animated movie, live action movie. It's shame on you, Warner, DC, Discovery, whoever. I first read this story in the Baxter reprints, and in those reprints, this guy was colored sort of like Galactus colors, which was pretty appropriate. He does kind of look a little like Galactus. But yeah, he is definitely his own super cool creation. Look at that amazing like arm cannon thing he's got. And then we got some cool looking guys in the background. This guy, this fallen warrior and stuff. There's a guy some of them I feel like became Masters of the Universe action figures. There's this guy way in the background that kind of looks a little like 8 Opus. He's got the mask. He's got kind of like the things around the, he's got a different belt buckle. And like every inch of this comic is so perfectly designed, and it's taking you into this world, this long time ago in a galaxy far, far away kind of world. And not one thing in it is like there's not one bum note where you're like, oh look, there's like a soda fountain from the 50s or something. Because that's kind of when you think about when DC does sort of their sci-fi and their future, there's always some bum notes in there where it's like there's some things that just don't fit, But this is all like, all a Kirby designed cosmic sci-fi, and every inch of it is perfectly designed. Resistance melts before Steppenwolf. He finds himself alone and blasted out of his saddle. Welcome back to New Genesis, Steppenwolf. Now to finish what we once began. Who are you? So we have a duel between Star Warriors, with one of them masked and with his identity a mystery. The risen dead, eager to exact a long-awaited vengeance. How my heart leapt when I saw you leading your demon pack. Think, Steppenwolf, think hard. Isaiah the Inheritor. Darkseid didn't kill you, but I won't be cheated. You'll never kill again, Steppenwolf. And I was talking about how they're not being, one bum note, and everything being perfectly designed. The only thing that maybe sort of takes you a little bit out of this, other world is this womp sound effect. It's a little conventional. Looks kind of like an effect you would see, when the Joker hits Batman in the face with a pie or something. It's that Mike Royer. That's maybe the one. But again, that's if that's the one thing to complain about in this issue, then we're doing great. And when they did the Baxter version of this, they did re-letter some of it, and I think that sound effect did get re-lettered. Finishing Steppenwolf, Isaiah turns the cosmic power of his war staff on the other raiders. Take to your heels or die. Back to the threshold, all is lost. The raiders vanish through their dimension door, and only the wind supplants the echoes of battle. I hear you approaching, Metron. I could sense a silent witness to this fight. Have you come to survey your handiwork? This war is your doing, Isaiah. Can I help it if both sides seek to use me? And when it serves your purpose, you cooperate, and warriors die because of it. Yes, like foul Steppenwolf, Darkseid knew he'd meet you here. And that's like an ongoing theme of this, too, is Darkseid as this calculated manipulator, and how people who are a little less so, people who maybe lead with their heart or lead with their gut, kind of get manipulated and caught up in the machinations of manipulators like Darkseid. And so if you want to be free of that, if you want to defeat them or thwart their will, you have to be very careful, and you have to learn to think and learn to be cool and not get caught up in their the drama that they're trying to drag you into. I can imagine a reality television style New Gods show where everybody's getting caught up in Darkseid's drama. Darkseid, how I want him destroyed, and yet he lives. He climbs step by step. By intrigue, he got war. By war, he got power. By power, he got Steppenwolf. I've always known it. The real enemy was obscure and humble Darkseid. This is an interesting turn. This is an interesting twist. So well thought out, and that there's so much depth to this story that Kirby's telling, this larger story. And the more he would talk about it as a big ball of wax that he's slowly unspooling. And it really seems like the deeper you delve into it, the more you explore the margins of this story, there's just it just extends in every direction and is just wonderful, which compounds the tragedy that it was canceled prematurely. Of course, look, while Steppenwolf lies dead from a frontal fight, Darkseid has leapt in from the rear. With a deadly rain of planetoids, he's making this a techno-cosmic war. And this, the drawing planetoids out of orbit as an attack weapon kind of reminds me of, there's like a similar weapon in The Last Starfighter. Techno-cosmic war produces techno-cosmic machines that draw the debris of space and send it crashing down upon New Genesis. On Apocalypse, Darkseid has made good use of Metron's methods. Giant biological mutations are bred in Apocalypse laboratories, turned loose to pillage and kill. New Genesis fights back with equal innovations. Wherever the giants tread, the ground beneath their feet cracks wide from seismic shock and swallows them in its deep recesses. But the war grows ever larger. It reaches across the universe, and mammoth suns are transformed into cosmic lasers designed to cut New Genesis into blazing, lifeless shards. What an amazing page. This might be the page to own of this issue. You got this, like something I've never seen before in a comic or anywhere. I haven't seen this in a movie. Every inch of it, amazing. Then you got this, these bacterial giants bred in Apocalypse laboratories, then the earth cracks beneath them, and then a cosmic laser, this giant magnifying lens flying in orbit around a sun and focusing that solar energy into a mega laser. My God, what hath Kirby wrought? Larger grows the war. Larger grow the god machines. An impactor the size of a planet is sent crashing into an enemy-captured sun. Man. And they took the design of this spaceship and put it on the Super Friends cartoon and made it like Darkseid's spaceship. And they also based a toy out of this for the Superpowers toy line. And inside Isaiah of New Genesis, something dies with each such deed. Where will this end? How can he destroy the cosmos and yet save New Genesis? We are worse than the old gods. They destroyed themselves. We destroy everything. I think about this quote a lot. And it's like, oh my God, we're worse than the old gods. This is Darkseid's way. I am infected by Darkseid. To save New Genesis, I must find Isaiah. Where is Isaiah? Not the warrior, the general, but the true servant of those he leads. Not here in these tortured ruins of war, but Isaiah is there, somewhere, out there. He's going on his quest, his journey of self-discovery, out into the desert like a prophet of old. Out there is an ugly landscape, empty of all that was once New Genesis. Its soft green forested lands are gone. Now that's a shocker too. Like what we've seen of New Genesis up to this point is this beautiful, grassy, sunlit, untouched world, and now we're seeing it just demolished, turned into this wasteland. And again, this is a theme in Kirby's work. You look at his work that he was doing during World War II, and it was about that if we can survive this war, if we can figure out a way through it, we could create a utopia. The rotting hulks of war machines instead of trees. This has become Darkseid's world, a wasteland seared and cracked and gaping with endless pits in which bacterial monsters fester and play. So yeah, Darkseid has turned New Genesis into Apocalypse's twin. Darkseid's plan. Like foolish Steppenwolf, I've allowed myself to follow the mad dreams of Darkseid, from which no one can survive. I tear off my armor. I reject this war staff as a weapon. I reject the way of war. Darkseid's game is not mine. Where is Isaiah? Where is Isaiah? The dry wind rises, and the elements disturb the sky. Violent electrical flashes twist and stab across the darkened land. Isaiah! The echo becomes a roar. The roar becomes 1,000 drums beating to the mad music of the windstorm, driving the questing spirit. To the wall, ageless, inscrutable, it stands as if waiting in the sudden calm for Isaiah to communicate. If I am Isaiah the inheritor, what is my inheritance? And from the wall the answer comes, the source. And across the wall a hand of flame brings Isaiah the unifriend. You can think of like the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And yeah, this hand of flame writes the source. And this hand of flame, we've only seen a couple times. We saw it in issue 1 and issue 2, and I think that's it. It's the source wall, this sort of central holy place on New Genesis, where this flaming hand writes out enigmatic messages from the source, and this is where Isaiah communes with the source, this sort of cosmic oneness. Soon after, Isaiah returns to his command. He dresses in the clothes of peace and carries a new staff. Messages fly between New Genesis and Apocalypse. And while Curious Metron busily works on his Mobius chair, a secret bargain between Isaiah and Darkseid is struck, the strange conditions that form the Pact. Kirby had begun work on a page that would go between these two, of sort of like the meeting between Isaiah and Darkseid, but he decided to leave it out, which I think was the right decision. But it's nice to be able to see that little moment. Every ounce of this story is precious to me. The larger New God story, but then also this individual issue. So I'm glad that survived. On Apocalypse, what have you done with our son, Darkseid? I know he was taken from his quarters. Where is he? Where he can at last serve me usefully, a tool for peace. Haven't you heard, Tigra? There is to be an age of peace. And, peace, like it's hearing Darkseid talk about peace coming and stuff. It's kind of scary. It's like, wait a second, how come Darkseid wants this peace? And, and just about Darkseid, every aspect of his life is is a calculation, and every relationship is transactional. His wife is just a pawn in his game. Even his son is just a tool to serve him usefully. Really, this is the bitter world that Darkseid lives in. I hear nothing in exile. Even my spies failed to bring me news. Until this day, you've kept us apart. Our son was raised without ever knowing his father. But I know him, Tigra. He's like you, a fighting, snarling killer cat. It was the Queen Mother, not I, who chose you for my mate. But the war has claimed her life, and I rule now. Enough! Where is our son? Is he your pawn in this new scheme? And, you can assume that Hegra's death, Darkseid might know more than he's saying about it. Just with his track record of using people in his climb. At a signal from Darkseid, Tigra is carried off by her struggling guards. It won't work, Darkseid. He'll live. He'll grow. He'll kill you. Take her away. Let's put an end to these events, to this war. Has the dimension door been activated? Granny Goodness is in the chamber, awaiting the arrival of the child from New Genesis. Good. This exchange of heirs will seal the pact. Isaiah wants peace. I want time. Time to redefine power, to make this bombed-out waste a meaningful pursuit. Moments later, Granny Goodness enters. Hail, great Darkseid! See what I hold. See what was so gently nudged through the dimension threshold from New Genesis. Isaiah's whelp, eh? This will hurt him. He surrendered his prize lamb for a tiger. He's been given some mild sedative. I think there is a serene and fragile quality in his features. We'll stamp that out, won't we, Granny? We'll jam him into that clanking mechanism you call an orphanage. All the rigors and trials heaped upon the training warrior shall be doubled for him. His spirit will flag and his bones will ache until, sire? He may conveniently decide to escape from apocalypse, Granny. Of course, on that day, the pact I agreed to will be broken. That fine day will be dear to your heart, sire. Therefore, in its honor, I shall name the lad Scot-Free. So, whoa, we're seeing, this is baby Scot-Free. This is baby Mr. Miracle. And this is, and he's the son of royalty. He's the son of a god among gods. He's the son of Isaiah. Just way to sort of, just enrich the connective tissue of this universe that Kirby's creating. Bravo. And that this peace is a temporary peace. It allows Darkseid time to plot and plan. And when he's got all his ducks in a row, then he's going to conveniently allow this kid to escape, and the war will start, and he'll have the advantage. Great stuff. And yeah, you do feel bad that Isaiah has to separate himself from his son, the one connection to his beloved and departed wife, Avia. Then Darkseid barks his order to the dimension chamber. Send my son through the dimension threshold. It's the order. Get rid of that animal before I kill him. Let me go, you dogs. I don't want to go into that. Let me go. Murderous little monster. At last he's out of our keep. So just great that this kid, Darkseid's son, is just tearing the faces off of these demon guards that are set to charge him. This kid's a real firecracker, like his mother. And he gets sent through the dimension threshold. Where am I? There was no wall here when I came through. Come back, come back. Shunted always from place to place for reasons never revealed to him, the savage offspring of Darkseid and Tigra moves cautiously into this new and seemingly sinister chamber. Fools! I kept them so busy they never noticed this hidden weapon. Then the boy emerges into an adjoining room where an elder with a staff sits at a table, bent in grief. Father? This is some hero's journey stuff, the meeting with the father. I was told I'd find my father here. If you're my father, speak. You won't speak to me. You'll never speak to me. You hate me. Hate me. Hate is no longer a word in this place. Put down that weapon, son. You are my father? Only if you wish me to be. I am High Father. woe. So this Isaiah the Inheritor that we've seen all along, this hot-blooded warrior, is the saintly high father. Amazing. What an amazing twist. And to see the journey that he's gone on, and what a poignant scene that he's just lost his son and is now in charge of this murderous little brat, the son of his worst enemy, and yet he will be father to this child. Just amazing, just moving. Just a very, very moving moment. And you are Orion. We have need of each other, Orion. This is a place of friends. Here is my hand. No, And so this kid, the other revelation, that this kid, the son of Darkseid, if you weren't aware of that at this point, because there have been some like brief mentions of it, but no like big like, hey everybody, Darkseid is Orion's father, but that this kid is Orion, and Orion is Darkseid's son. Again, just all this great stuff. Amazing. This is what you shoot for when you're sort of, telling your big grand epic. The hand or the weapon, Orion. I too had to make that choice. Decide. And yeah, a great choice that he has to make. You speak to my liking. I trust you for now. First trust, Orion. Then who knows? A great destiny, perhaps. What an ending. Thus it began, and we move forward once more. Next, Orion, Light Ray, Calabac, and the death wish of Terrible Turpin. There's a little bit of a coloring error. We see, like they colored his bald head the way, like, all the children of Apocalypse get their heads shaved. The colorist interpreted it as like some kind of like skull cap or something. So an error there. And they fix that in the Baxter reprint. And also in the Baxter reprint, they give him, instead of this yellow and red, they give him the color of like Orion's costume, the sort of red and blue, which is a nice touch, which kind of cements everything. But this is it for me. This is it. This issue. It's like amazing. And then there's like a bonus story which wasn't in the Baxter reprint. So when I think of this story, I don't really think of this like bonus story with it. But this story is pretty cool. A Tale of the Young Gods of Supertown. And it's this tiny little vignette, 2 pages, but again, fleshes out the world. And like already Kirby is building on things he developed in the Pact. What he did in the Pact creates the possibility for even more stories. I saw it, Viking. It's making its way to the surface of New Genesis from these subtunnels. You're a finder. That's why I summoned you. I know, to locate the danger and to eliminate it. So we have this kind of like Lord of the Rings looking kind of guy living in the caves beneath New Genesis. From the germ warfare used in the Great Clash, a race of strange beings had evolved. Beings that thrive beneath New Genesis and to plague the gods. Be careful, Viking. Concern from Stanga the Hermit is indeed a compliment. Viking has the power to trace and reconstruct atomic patterns. The tunnels, pitted by many burrow openings, holds the sought-after pattern. It's here. I can sense it. So little by little, the members of the Forever People are revealing their powers. So this is our first time seeing Viking's power, and it's a power to track. In one such burrow, the power flares from Viking's eyes, and a nebulous but hideous shape forms against the darkness. I'm right. It went through this burrow, and it's a monster. So he can sort of shoot beams out of his eyes that can sort of, coalesce the trace impressions left behind by people or things sort of passing through. So you can sort of see back in time a little. You can see like, oh, there was once a monster over here. Suddenly, Viking rears back and smashes his attacker against the tunnel wall. Somewhere in its head is its weakness. Experienced Viking takes full advantage of it. So it's 2 pages. Some pretty cool world building in just these 2 pages and some action, a fight, some danger. It's fleeing back to the inner warrens. Thank High Father that the thing has a genetic weak spot. Viking's timely action has diverted a sinister curiosity from becoming a monstrous terror. For above him on the surface of New Genesis, he can hear the laughter of the young at play. The danger to them has passed. And again, these always the reminder, these are the stakes of the war. This is what we're trying to protect, the possibility and the potential of the young. It's all about protecting the young from danger. and allowing them to, grow up in a beautiful, peaceful, and loving environment. Then we get a Manhunter reprint. Looks like fun. I like this perspective here. And then the letter columns are worth a look if you get your hands on this comic, but here's one that I think is worth reading. Dear Jack, I am delighted beyond belief at the job your new inker, Mike Royer, has done on New Gods #5. His brushwork brings the Kirby pencils to a level that has never been reached before. My favorite inker on Kirby up to now was Wally Wood. However, Mr. Wood's own style took over to a large degree. Mike Royer adds his own technical skill, but is as true to Kirby as is possible, letting it all come through. Every stroke has the look of being applied with painstaking care and perfection. Ever hear one of your favorite records played on expensive equipment? You're amazed at how much there is that you never noticed before. That's the feeling I get now at seeing you inked by Royer. My eye is held on the page longer now. It's an unconscious reflex that just happens. At any rate, it's an even greater pleasure to see a new work by Kirby now that Mike Royer is inking him. Shel Dorf, San Diego, California. So this is Shel Dorf, founder of the San Diego Comic-Con. Our thanks to you, Shel, for the kind words and also for showing us such a great time at the San Diego Con this past summer. We're all eagerly awaiting next year's gathering. So they're talking about the first San Diego Comic-Con that Kirby was the guest of honor at, and Mark Evanier and Steve Sherman were there with him. So a nice little piece of history here in the letters column. And yeah, he's right on the money in his assessment of Mike Royer's inks and what they do for this series and for the work of Jack Kirby as a whole. You're seeing Kirby with new eyes. And then I like this little bonus here, and I have a little star written up there in pencil. I think I was planning to maybe reference this either for Superpowers or maybe even Transformers versus G.I. Joe. Here come the robots, a world of thinking machines. Just beautiful drawing here. Everyone has heard of calculating machines, which can add, subtract, and multiply. At Harvard University exists today's ultimate in thinking machines. A metal monster with sinews of electrical wire that can solve the most intricate mathematical equation in minutes. This machine thinks more perfectly than a dozen human mathematicians. Man's next step in developing the thinking machine will be the robot, a tireless mechanical servant that will perform man's duties in factory above or office to right, or on the farm with the utmost efficiency. The metal workers will usher in the dawn of leisure. If only. Here's hoping. Yours truly, J.B. Jones. Yours truly, J.B. Jones. The coming robot age will even invade the realm of sports. Football teams will hurl their metal might against each other without fear of injuries. Players will direct their robot substitutes by remote control. Beautiful. In the home, one Hydra-armed robot servant will be the equivalent of a maid, cook, butler, and gardener. Interesting, the use of the word Hydra and the many arms. If you're wondering, who came up with Hydra? Was it Jack? Was it Stan? Who did what? Here, Jack Kirby's already thinking in terms of Hydra and the many arms and how he can apply that in comics. Mr. and Mrs. Everyman will enjoy this domestic luxury as matter-of-factly as they have accepted the wonders of electricity. Get ready for the robots. Kirby, he grew up in an apartment that didn't have electricity. So yeah, to him, electricity just changed his life, and who knows what kind of things he's going to see in his lifetime, and maybe these crazy robots. And I have robots in my house. I don't know about you. It hasn't completely changed my way of life yet, but we'll see. Again, this is my favorite comic of all time. I've spoken about it many times. I've written essays about it. And who knows, maybe I'll do another video or 2 or 3 or 400 in the future, because there's just so much here. We've barely scratched the surface. But I'm very happy to have shared this with you today on New God Sunday School. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. On Free Comic Book Day, Saturday, May 6th, there will be a Free Comic Book Day edition of I Am Stan, a comic book sized excerpt of the book covering some really interesting parts of Stan's life, a lot of the Marvel era of the 60s. Please tell your comic book retailer to reserve a copy for you so that you don't miss out. I'll see you next time for New God Sunday School.